Hey guys, welcome to the Curse of the Dark Woods. Tonight, we're digging into a piece of American history so dark and so forgotten that local authorities still try to keep people away from the site. This isn't your typical campfire ghost story. This is the documented descent into madness of a place called Dudleytown, Connecticut. In the middle of the dense, suffocating forests of Cornwall, there's a patch of land where the birds don't sing and the wind seems to stop at the tree line. This was once a thriving settlement, but today it's a graveyard of cellar holes and broken stone walls. Why did an entire community, hard-working pioneers, simply vanish or lose their minds? The answer lies in a bloodline curse that traveled across the Atlantic from the Royal Executioner's Block in England straight into the heart of the American wilderness. To understand the nightmare of Dudleytown, we have to go back to 1510, to the court of King Henry VIII. Edmund Dudley, a high-ranking nobleman, was beheaded for treason. As the legend goes, during his final moments, a curse was placed on his lineage. It was said that any Dudley who tried to find success or build a home on new soil would be met with disaster and insanity. For 2 centuries, the family name was synonymous with tragedy, but the curse reached its peak when 3 brothers, Abiel, Barzillai, and Gideon Dudley, decided to leave England and settle in the rugged hills of Connecticut in 1747. When the Dudleys settled in this valley, they thought they had found a sanctuary, but they soon realized the geography of the place was working against them. The valley is shadowed by 3 massive peaks, Bald Mountain, Woodbury Mountain, and Coltsfoot Mountain. These peaks create a natural bowl that traps the cold, the mist, and the dark. The settlers called it the Owl's Nest, but the silence here wasn't peaceful, it was predatory. By the late 1700s, the Dudley luck began to manifest in terrifying ways. It started with crops that refused to grow and livestock that would wander into the woods and never return. But soon, the land began to take its toll on human life. Abiel Dudley, the man who started the settlement, lost his mind completely. After his fortune vanished and his family died off, he spent his final days wandering the dark woods, screaming at people who weren't there. He was the first, but he certainly wasn't the last. Travelers passing through Dudleytown in the 1800s started reporting something that defied logic. They described a heavy, unnatural silence that felt like it was pressing against their eardrums. There were no deer, no squirrels, and even the insects seemed to avoid the valley. One traveler wrote in his journal that the air felt thick with the weight of unseen eyes. Then came the high-profile tragedies that caught the attention of the entire East Coast. Consider the story of General Heman Swift, a hero of the Revolutionary War and a personal friend of George Washington. Swift was a man of iron will, but even he couldn't survive Dudleytown. In 1804, his wife, Mary, was standing on their front porch when a single bolt of lightning struck her dead. There wasn't even a storm in the sky. The general was found days later, rocking her lifeless body and talking to the shadows with teeth that he claimed were emerging from the forest to claim his soul. He died shortly after, a broken, babbling shell of a man. Perhaps the most famous victim was Mary Young Greeley, the wife of the legendary New York Tribune editor Horace Greeley. Mary was a woman of high society, but after spending just a few months in the Dudleytown area, she began to experience vivid, terrifying hallucinations. She claimed the trees were leaning in to whisper her name. By the time Horace moved her away, the damage was done. She took her own life, leaving a suicide note that many say referred to the darkness of the valley that she could never escape. But if you want to know what true horror looks like, look at the Hollister family. In the mid-1800s, William Hollister was one of the most successful farmers in the area. One October morning, he went out to clear some brush on the edge of his property. He never came back. When a search party went to look for him, they found his axe embedded so deep in a tree trunk that it took 2 men to pull it out. But there were no footprints leading away from the site, no signs of a struggle, nothing. A week later, his wife was found in their cellar. She had clawed at the stone floor until her fingernails were gone and her fingers were raw to the bone. She kept screaming about the men in the trees who had come for her husband and were waiting for her. She was never sane again. By the turn of the century, Dudleytown was becoming a ghost map. People were fleeing their homes in the middle of the night, leaving dinner tables fully set and clothes still hanging in the closets. They didn't care about their land or their wealth, they just had to get out before the valley consumed them. The final attempt to tame the land came in the 1920s when Dr. William Clark, a prominent physician from New York City, built a summer home there. He wanted a place for his wife to recover from illness, believing the mountain air would be healing. One weekend, the doctor had to return to the city for a business emergency. When he came back on Monday morning, he found his wife standing on the edge of the porch, staring into the woods with a vacant, terrifying grin. Her hair had turned white overnight. She told him she had spent the entire weekend watching the monsters dancing in the shadows of the dark entry forest. Within 48 hours, she had died of sheer cardiovascular collapse, literally scared to death. Dr. Clark abandoned the house that same day and never returned. So, what is the truth behind Dudleytown? Is it really a 500-year-old curse from the British monarchy? Or is there a more grounded scientific explanation? Some modern researchers point to infrasound. The way the three mountains are positioned, they create a natural wind tunnel that produces low-frequency vibrations. These vibrations are below the human range of hearing, but they are known to cause extreme anxiety, cold flashes, and vivid hallucinations. Others look to the soil itself. Cornwall, Connecticut is rich in iron and lead. It's possible that the settlers were drinking water contaminated with high levels of lead for decades. Lead poisoning causes irritability, memory loss, and, in extreme cases, paranoia and madness. Could the monsters they saw just be the result of a poisoned well? But talk to the locals today, and they'll give you a different answer. They'll tell you that the land is hungry. To this day, hikers report getting lost in the dark entry forest for hours, only to realize they've been walking in a tiny circle just 50 feet from the road. They talk about the cold spots, areas where the temperature drops 20 degrees in a single step, even in the middle of a humid Connecticut summer. The most disturbing part? You can't go there to find out for yourself. The ruins of Dudleytown are now strictly off-limits. The Dark Entry Forest Association owns the land, and they have installed high-tech security cameras and constant patrols. They claim it's to prevent vandalism, but the locals suggest something else. If you look at the history, if you look at the lives destroyed and the minds shattered in that valley, you have to wonder, are they keeping us out? Or are they desperately trying to keep something in? The Dudley curse isn't just a legend. It's a trail of dead bodies and ruined lives that stretches back centuries. It's a reminder that some places on this earth aren't meant for us. They belong to the silence. They belong to the shadows. And if you ever find yourself hiking in the Connecticut woods and the birds suddenly stop singing and the air turns cold as a grave, don't look behind you, just run. Because the Dudley curse is still waiting for its next resident. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of America's most haunted histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark woods, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten history. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the most terrifying ghosts are the ones that never left the soil. Good night.